Stuckism is an art form that I've been a big part of many days in the U.S. And it is all about creating art for one for yourself and for the aesthetic, and thinking about pursuing your own meaning in art, not making it so that it sells. Sort of close to art sake, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stuckism.
Thank you. All right, what is Stuckism?
What is Stuckism? Stuckism is a genre of painting that you do.
Yeah?
And it's like painting things that are not abstract, like stuff, and basically anything. And he came from that guy, and his wife was like, "You're stuck in painting. You don't do anything good. You don't change your style." And that it's like, wow, that's a good name for an art movement.
I'm just going to run that again. What is just the first part? I want them to see my mother's hands. That's really what I want. No, turn it off.
People are examining
This was just what I was going to run before.
is important to them, I think, and why some artwork gets visibility and economic support versus other artwork that goes without praise.
Grandma, what is Stuckism? What is Stuckism?
Stuckism is form of art by artists that are stuck. And it's all they know and they do it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so wait. All right, hello everyone.
Hello.
My name is Ron Troop. Yes, and thank you for coming. I wrote and published a book this year in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the art movement called Stuckism. And tonight I'm going to talk about the book and about Stuckism. But first, this project was made in part through the CNY Arts Grants for Regional Arts and Cultural Engagement Re-Grant Program. Thanks to a New York State Senate initiative supported by the New York State Legislature, the Office of the Governor, and administered by the New York State Council on the Arts. Thank you, CNY Arts. And thank you, Penfield Library and SUNY Oswego for this great space, for me to talk about my passion, which is Stuckism. The talk, along with readings from some chosen sections, will take about an hour, with a small Q&A too. I laid out books free to all of you art students that are here tonight. All right, there are 30, and you can't take them until you say the whole. Well, nobody's here. They're not here.
How much are they for non-students?
We'll talk about that in a minute. Also, anyone can put their name in the hat, which you know by now, to win that painting. All right, about me. These are my daughters, Rhiannon and Sophie. And next to them is my life partner, Rose. You might know her. Kurt Vonnegut wrote, "We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be." Well, tonight, for you, I am a painter, a writer, and a full-time Stuckist. But on other days, I am a husband, a father, a grandfather, a gardener, a socialite, a homemaker, a cat litter scraperer, etc., etc. And I guess you could say about me, or anyone for that matter, that I'm a person cut up into pieces. I play different roles for different people and vice versa. Now, for the record, I believe art as an end does not justify its means, at least not for any creative life that I think worth living for me. I'm convinced that making a living in art is the highest achievement. Practicing in art is a tool to fit all of those pieces back into a whole that we need from time to time. So please practice in art. I'm a SUNY Oswego alum with a BA in history. My dorm was right above Rose's head, all the way to the top right. It was 926 Fennell. Using my history degree to the fullest, I joined the restaurant trade and aspired to sous chef at various restaurants before quitting for good to focus on an art career, specifically writing and painting. I've been painting nearly every day for 20 years, and if not every day, at least every week for the last 20 years. And I've published 26 books. This is the latest. So what is Stuckism? Stuckism is an international art reform movement founded in London in 1999 by Charles Thompson and Billy Childish. It takes on the establishment postmodernist world with a 20-statement manifesto titled The Stuckists. Among other important aspects, and there are many, it promotes figurative painting with ideas over the theatrical conceptual art of postmodernism. It's a reactionary movement for sure. They've put out several more manifestos since that time, and you can read them on their website. In order to introduce you to Stuckism, I'm going to talk a little bit about its anti-conceptual art angle. There are lots of angles to Stuckism. This is just one of them. By 1999, things were getting pretty silly in the art world. Traditional arts in the West were getting squeezed out of gallery and museum shows. For this, for bananas and duct tape. So what is postmodernism? Well, in art, it's many things. Unfortunately, sometimes a lot of it is strictly conceptual. Think of this piece titled Comedian, which was a banana duct taped to a wall at Art Basel in Miami in 2019. I don't like to say this because usually it doesn't matter, but it sold for $150,000. And of course, I guess it does matter in this case, because only a fool billionaire would buy that to play the game. And they did. Is it art? No. Can anyone tell me why? I'm not asking, that's rhetorical. And can anyone name the artist, and does it matter? So you take away and look at a rotting banana on a wall. Or consider the Pompidou Center in Paris in 2009. It exhibited 9 rooms of nothing with the title Voids, a retrospective. But now, if you look at the wall, there's a lot of writing on those walls. It's a lot of concept with zero visual art. Has anyone seen this before? I mean in a gallery or museum, this messy bed, and not in your home or in your dorm room, children, students. This is a conceptual piece by Tracy Emin titled My Bed. It was arranged unmade in 1998 and exhibited at the Tate Britain in 1999 as one of the shortlisted works for its Turner Prize. Turner was a 19th century painter. She sold it to English billionaire Charles Saatchi in the year 2000, a year later, for $200,000. He brought it home to his mansion, put it in a main thoroughfare, talked it up at parties, and in 2014 he resold it for $3.7 million. Now the name Stuckism, this name is important, this Tracy Emin, because the name Stuckism was derived by co-founder Charles Thompson after Tracy Emin told her ex-boyfriend, co-founder Billy Childish, that his art and painting was stuck. Tracy Emin got rich and famous with conceptual art funded by billionaire Charles Saatchi. She was not known to be a painter, yet in 2011 she was appointed professor of drawing at the Royal Academy. And here is a print of one of her drawings of a jackrabbit. She also sells these at Christie's. An original can fetch $250,000. So art celebrity, I think, has taken over, and we suffer for it. Whether we like it or not, elite notions of what constitutes art trickles down through all levels of society. And by elite, I just mean individuals or institutions with unnatural power, money, and influence that guide the dissemination of culture on a national and international stage. Tracy Emin is a story of avarice, of billionaires playing games with each other. The problem is the hype and the media that makes money determine trends in modern art. Those trends become our history and our culture, and that's not good. Billionaires should not be writing our history, and Tracy Emin should not be teaching drawing on the moon. This is a photo of Damien Hirst squatting before his piece, The Physical Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Living. Like Tracy Emin, Charles Saatchi, billionaire, lifted him up and got him very rich and famous at a very young age. That's not him, that's him now, not before. Very rich. This is the co-founder, Charles Thompson, and what he had to say at a solo exhibition in Prague about Damien Hirst's formaldehyde shark. It's funny, it's to the point. He hits upon statement number 5 in the Stuckist Manifesto: art that has to be in a gallery to be art is not art. Let's see what he has to say.
When there is a Stuckist manifesto, and one of the points is art that has to be in a gallery to be recognized as art isn't art.
To je jeden z těch základních bodů. Pokud máte umění, který musíme dodat, aby bylo jasný, že to je umění, tak v tom případě to není umění.
I mean, food, it doesn't need to be if you saw a dead shark in a natural history museum, you would think it was a dead shark, you wouldn't think it was art.
No, ale že vidíte mrtvýho žraloka a uvidíte ho v muzeu přírodovědném, tak tam uvidíte jako mrtvýho žraloka, jako objekt, jako tělo, ale nebude tomu přemýšlet jako uměleckou předmět.
And if you found a dead shark in your back garden, you wouldn't say, oh, someone's given me some art. You'd say, what's this smelly lump of blubber doing in my back garden?
Kdybyste měl mrtvého žraloka někde u sebe na zahradě, tak se taky neřeknete, mi tady dává tuhle krásnou uměleckou instalaci, ale říká se, tady smrdí, tak už to konečně je dobrý.
So Stuckism is initiating a revolution because the art establishment has this viewpoint, which we've discussed, and Stuckism is challenging that.
Yeah, so I'm a strong advocate for Stuckism here in the US. Since 2015, I've received other grants like this one to promote the movement, hosted and participated in several international solo and group exhibitions, and have dedicated a significant portion of my career to the dissemination of Stuckist ideas and ideals. I could talk for hours and days about Stuckism, but I only have an hour, so I'd like to share some of its essence to you, and of course, talk about the book. First, a brief overview of the manifesto. There it is, let's read it. Just joking. It's shrunken significantly, so I don't have to read through it. I will read some statements throughout the presentation when relating it to my practice or to a discussion in the book. There are 20 points or statements made in the manifesto, some strong, some not so much, all open to your interpretation. For instance, statement number 4 is one that makes everybody mad except the painters. Statement number 2, I think is beautiful, or close to it. And statement number 8 is my favorite. It is the Stuckist's duty to explore his or her neurosis and innocence through the making of paintings and displaying them in public, thereby enriching society by giving shared form to individual experience and an individual form to shared experience. And what I love most about the manifesto is the enjoyment I get refuting it. I don't agree with every principle. For instance, statement number 9 begins with, the Stuckist is not a career artist. That is just not true. I am a career artist, and I'm going to have my first reading. Are you ready? Here we go. I don't know what Thompson and Childish were thinking to write that the Stuckist is not a career artist. Of course I am. This is my occupation, my practice, my life's work. If there was a trade journal for Stuckism, I'd subscribe and devour it by lamplight. Can a careerist be an amateur? Yes, but authority must be kept at bay. For the Stuckist, authority is the public. Friends, family, gallerists, art snobs, art mobs, potential buyers, and all the catty brats who judges art. We were born from the cosmos free to be, but slaves to work. It is up to the individual to strike a balance. Careerism has garnered a bad reputation because many people make their careers out of degrading repetitions that reward them with a car payment, world travel, and stultifying luxury that breeds too much contempt for an artistic path to ever be born again. That type of careerist is less creator and more consumer, way out of balance and mistrusting his own capacity to give and receive love. He cannot be an amateur of painting like the Stuckist, who is a career painter. I think there are parts of the manifesto that could have used a better editor, and this is one of them. The following could have been written instead: the Stuckist is a career amateur artist. So it's okay to disagree with Stuckist philosophy. It's not a movement fond of fanaticism. For Stuckism embraces all that it denounces. We only denounce that which stops at the starting point. Stuckism starts at the stopping point. Here it is, the book. This painting is not by me. This cover artwork is done by Edgeworth Johnston, a Stuckist artist living in London. And the cover design is not by me, it is by Rose True. It's split into 20 segments or chapters, not unlike the manifesto, which is 20 statements. It has a foreword, which is a poem written to me and Stuckism by American poet Robert Okaji. There's also a page for a dedication, acknowledgments, and a disclaimer. Robert Okaji. The forward poem is titled Letter to Troop from the Imperfect Stuckist Sky. Here is a poet. Laura Donnelly, I was hoping she'd bring some poets by. He is amazing. His blog, Oh at the Edges, is at robertokaji.com. If you want to read poetry from the next US Poet Laureate, remember that name? You can see my painting in his studio he had in Texas at one point. And this is to understand that Stuckism is, of course, a painting movement, but it is also kindred to punk rock, to poetry, to marble sculpting, to culinary arts, what have you. Robert now lives in Indianapolis with his wife and super poet Stephanie Harper, and I think the two are going to have to duke it out for that laureate prize because she's awesome too. This Friday, I just finished this painting for Robert, for a book. I get to do the cover art for one of his books called his Windblown Self, and it is an honor. I did this one in oil, and anytime you see me working in oil, it's because I really want it to be a good painting. Now I'm just going to read these titles, meaning the titles to each section. This is the preface, and it's an unnaturally long preface, but worth it, I think, to give my take on the movement. I'm not going to read a long part. I'm only going to read a little bit, like half a page, right? Maybe a page. Stuckism, no novelty, no shock, no gimmick. I'm a Stuckist and you'll have to deal. Edgeworth Johnston wrote recently that Stuckism needs to grow up. Perhaps it was a jibe to art makers who join a club and begin to one-up other art makers with words and thoughts like, in order to be a this, you must be that. Which is anti-Stuckism because I say so. I can make a painting you say is abstract, as if any painting ever could be. And I'll respond, you're blind because just look, it's a winged sufferer circling a corpse. You don't see it? Then go Stuckist someplace else. I'm doing it here and you're not my guru. You can't ever one-up me. I start at your stopping point. You go ahead and fit into the mold. I will break from mine on the good days, but sit stock still to practice those drab ones. You can be great, and I'll always be greater. And one thing for certain, I will never be greater than myself. So 25 years gone by, Stuckism is the only international art movement on earth worth talking about because there are millions of us. About a couple thousand identify their art as Stuckist, and the other 3 million painters are lying to themselves to maintain the hope of established gallery or art news representation. After reading the manifesto, any serious painter not working for the Pope or stuffing a corpse sheep's head with microplastics will make immediate connection to its truisms. A huge relief from the cognitive dissonance that bangs in the brains of determined artists. Before and after the advent of Stuckism in 1999, the gatekeepers dangled avarice keys to the kingdom, acceptance, recognition, and money among mankind, and all the unstuckists of the world pined for that big break, club admission, millionaire notice, a father saying, job well done. And it never came because art moving in that direction is dread. The business of art is dread. Success by means of what others think is the way is dread. Pride is the other side of dread. There are 167 roads leading to hell on earth, and one of them is a painting made to fit into the worldview of another person's dread. Make sense? Of course not. I'm an enigma, a heck writer, and a Stuckist. Any paintings you see in here that aren't mentioned otherwise are mine, just so you know. All about the title. Where did this weird title come from? The Stuckist Manifesto was still fresh off the press for less than a year when the same authors, Billy Childish and Charles Thompson, published the first Stuckist document, Remodernism. It delved deeper into the need for a new spirituality in art to replace postmodernism, quote, because of its failure to answer or address any important issues of being a human being, end quote. It is made up of 14 statements in a summary calling for a spiritual renaissance in art. The title of this book is taken from statement number 8, quote, spiritual art is not about fairyland. It is about taking hold of the rough texture of life. It is about addressing the shadow and making friends with wild dogs. Spirituality is the awareness that everything in life is for a higher purpose, end quote. Oh, I don't think that last part true, that everything in life is for a higher purpose. Sounds like artifice to me, human all too human. I believe that everything in life is not for a higher purpose. See how easy it is to break with an art movement? But that's neither here nor there. I just love the wild dog title for a book about Stuckism. Introduction just reinforces my take on the movement and where I stand in it. Pirate Cook got his lost daughter Leaf. We'll add a little drawing. Give me a second. This section is about how I arrived to painting and then to Stuckism. In my mid-20s, I was destined to become a chef. My grandmother once told me I was either going to be a restaurateur or a philosopher. Life happened, and here I am, maybe somewhere in between. If you notice that painting right there, I found that in storage after I published the book. That was my first painting ever that I titled. I wrote the title on the painting. So what I'm going to show you now are 2 videos to show you what 25 years can do to a human being. Here I am working 50 hours a week in a restaurant. This is in 1999, yes, with that old-fashioned video camera. We're cleaning up after a shift, and I am telling my unborn grandchild what Grandpa does for a living. The line was clean. No, it is not. Oh. This is where I work, grandson. This is where your grandfather works. Look at that hot oil. This is what Grandpa does for a living. All right. There's that, right? And then here it's 25 years later. 2024, Rose and I are in London listening to a founder of an art movement read a welcome poem about me at a celebratory dinner, which is quite a jump from what you just saw, I think.
We celebrate someone today, not Donald Trump, not Reggie Cray, not Taylor Swift, not Betty Boop. Who is this man? He's called Ron Trump. All artists have horrendous fates. He lives in the United States. And now he leads the Stuckism group. Who is this man? He's called Ron Trump. He's in Oswego, some far place beyond the normal human race. But still his spirits never droop. Who is this man? He's called Ron Trump.
All right. Well, ironically, I would have been stuck in the kitchen if it wasn't for Stuckism and the internet. Class level is not easy to break out of anywhere in the world, not in India and not in the United States. We live in big, thick bubbles. The artistic path is one way, so is academia. The latter pays better, and just don't burn the bridges I have along the way. My Stuckist Manifesto is a section where I give my 2-cent opinions on the manifesto itself. Each division starts off with what I think as cheerleader or critic, and finishes with the actual words from the statement. So it's a good place to see how my take is on Stuckism. It's a pretty long chapter because I break it up the manifesto and read about it. I'll just read you a very short one here. A Stuckist must exhibit as often as possible. She must thicken her skin. The painter who pines for a gallery show is not a Stuckist. The contemporary Stuckist will show his or her work online all the time, but that's only a start. Now make 20 paintings and exhibit them in your living room. After that, be brave and oblige any wall that would accept your paintings for display. That is the honor, and that's the terror, and the Stuckism. Whether it's a bar, office, library, bakery, or coffee shop, exhibit the work to deepen your experience of being an artist. When the gallery calls, accept with the caveat that its representatives cannot curate unless they buy the lot. These are not their paintings. You have something to say about your work, and the gallery is bleeding you of 30 to 50% of potential income from sales. This is no time to act humble. You tell the story, nobody else. Art that has to be in a gallery isn't art. That's the Stuckist phrase. Stuckist Confession, it's in here, but you have to get the book to read it. I'm not going to read my Stuckist Confession, it's embarrassing. But I am going to promote a great book, a treasure to anyone who has ever doubted about art, which is everyone. Art and Fear by David Bales and Ted Orland is a must-read for anyone stuck in an art career, whether that be student or art crazy old man like me. The book predates Stuckism by a decade, unwittingly gathering information for a future manifesto. Thank you, Mr. Flanagan, for this book. Opening Stuckism. This section contains opening statements that I've written from solo or group Stuckist exhibitions that I've hosted. There's even one about barter. Do you want to trade a painting for a sack of potatoes or a case of olive oil? I've asked for it. I've also got things I did not ask for, like 3 hot air balloon rides for 3 paintings. I'm afraid of heights. I'm especially afraid of heights that are reached by fire, but I took the deal and I gave the balloon rides to my mother-in-law. For me, the anticipation of opening night is better than Christmas morning. There's Rose and Emma Pugmire in London getting their Christmas presents from Edgeworth, their book he published of his masks. One time, I arranged a Stuckist exhibition in a beautiful gallery in Watkins Glen. And don't misunderstand Stuckism or me and my take on it. When you can get the gallery shows, take them, nab them. They're great, they help. I gathered 70 paintings from 34 artists living in 9 countries. I rented a bus to take local art lovers to the Finger Lakes. Now this is what Stuckism can do. You must want to commune. The important thing is to find other artists willing to play. That's what Stuckism is for me, painting pictures alone with other people. Here's a brief look at the arrival of the bus and the gallery setup.
Terry, arriving. Whitfield arriving.
We announced stopping. This is the new vote.
Damien arriving with Yvonne. Very nice. Brian Cazone arriving. Dina Olson arriving. Runchit DK arriving. And Pagano arriving. Kathy Cazone arriving. Larry Rapshaw entering the gallery. And Sue Matthews, who made it.
Weird thing there going on. Stuckist Manifesto statement number 18. The Stuckist is opposed to the sterility of the white wall gallery system and calls for exhibitions to be held in homes and musty museums, with access to sofas, tables, chairs, and cups of tea. The surroundings in which art is experienced rather than viewed should not be artificial and vacuous. So open up your house to exhibit. It's a great human way to communicate art to family, friends, and could be new friends. I've had at least 15 home shows, solo for myself, solo for others, and group exhibitions. Advertise, lay out good food and drink, some live music. Here's a little tip. Musicians are Stuckists, whether they know it or not. So maybe they'll cut you a deal. I had an exhibition for a painter from Russia, Lena Lanova, but that was her pseudonym. Her real name is Olga Naus, and she brought me 30 paintings over. I framed them, had a great show, got some music, the Frank Gordon Trio, and here they are playing in my house.
Frank Gordon is a former student of mine.
Awesome.
And that is not his real name.
I know. Yeah. So, academic Stuckism. This segment relates my thoughts on art and academia. Did everyone know here that Roy Lichtenstein taught industrial design and some painting courses at Oswego State from 1957 to 1960? Roy Lichtenstein's a famous pop painter. 2 years later, he was traveling Europe exhibiting his paintings, and he never taught again. Nor did he do anything new for the next 35 years. Roy became very famous and wealthy as a commodity. His Oswego story is pregnant with meaning for students interested in art and pedagogy, and how the two sometimes can mix like oil and water. Roy was not a Stuckist. However, Michael Fox, his contemporary, oozed Stuckism without knowing it. I'm just going to read a little bit from academic Stuckism. Andy sat down to talk one day. He said, "Decide what you want. Do you want to expand your parameters or play the museums like some dilettante?" From Work, a song written by Lou Reed in memory of Andy Warhol. It is resplendent midsummer in Oswego, New York. The flower garden is weeded and bursting with color. The garlic pulled and drying in the sun, and a half day spent edging the lawn along the curb and driveway. I have been grilling meals outdoors and watering the Merlot grapes at dusk. I want to risk a tomorrow of 30 mosquito bumps to sleep under the stars tonight. Summer spent along a great lake give a glimpse into Elysium where the faithful retire for eternity. Michael Fox, who came to Oswego State in 1967 to teach art and painting, lived the rest of his years with these beautiful summers. He claimed openly and often of the beauty and peace Oswego provided him. Like me, he lived next door to the college and walked to campus watching the changing skies. He laughed at those who mocked the very place they chose to live, especially the professors. Why work here if you don't want to be here? Many residents play act that Oswego is a lowly place overall, with such a depressed economy, and winters that drag on forever. Summer is a welcome but very limited respite to the cyclic despair of several poverties, exposed most predominantly in February with the cracked skin smiles of quiet desperation. Many professors commute from the Syracuse suburbs over the slippery roadways and lake effect whiteouts, perhaps because a harried life looks best with many takeout options. February wears its prettiest sundress on Indian nights out for Vindaloo, and there's always a Wegmans supermarket just around the corner. Time is a prized commodity, especially for the art professors who need to practice art to remain relevant as artists while teaching. I think Michael Fox understood this very well. It helped that he was from another time and class of people who would be embarrassed to pretend the luxury of a Syracuse commute. Roy Lichtenstein was of that time too. Slowness was a natural breeding ground for the art process. It still is. And our teaching career at Oswego would have been cherished as a best-kept secret. Art shuns a life without frequent access to quiet and solitude. Lichtenstein came to Oswego and immersed himself into the drowsy flow of small-town life, whether he liked it or not. I don't think he liked it very much, which to me means that he was never quite ready to be an artist. Not like Michael Fox was a teacher artist, or Ron Troop is a father-husband artist. I guess the best phrase to describe a career for Roy Lichtenstein would be ambitious teacher artist until jaded, and then a commercial artist. Critical Stuckism. Oh boy, everyone's a critic. This segment highlights a celebrity art critic named Waldemar Janisvac, who writes for the Sunday Times of London. Not too long ago, he used his column to mock the work of 5 painters who finally got their breakthrough at Saatchi Gallery. There's more in the chapter about the powers that be controlling how art moves around the world. I'm going to free you from this chapter, you lucky dogs. But not the next one, Playful Stuckism. This section blends humor and satire, which Stuckism welcomes wholeheartedly. So I shared with my wife a break time video of Tom Jones and Janis Joplin back in 1969 singing and dancing Raise Your Hand. I texted her that this kind of energy is what gurgles through my veins most days, and I'm going to make you watch a minute of it so you guys can get some stuff gurgling in your veins too. Yeah. So the reason why I put that up there is I want to juxtapose this live, unrehearsed dance to the choreographed media perfections we have to suffer today, and there are a lot. Stuckism is art that communicates. It's an inside dancing and then an expressing of that dance to the world. It could be painting, it could be music, it could be sculpture, it could be whatever. It's inside you and it's got to come out. So, art's urgent task is to reopen that door. It must go back to Tom and Janis, further back several more generations to the Mohawk and Santee Sioux. I say shine a light on the first hominid clan even to notice how Glub the fire starter turned a rock into a mastodon with his smoldering magic stick. Hooray, let's party! And Glub's brothers and sisters gesticulate the wild human dance while drinking spit beer late into the night. Beyonce, Jeff Koons, and Rita, the corporate-sponsored conceptual artist who uses her feet to throw rocks at spider monkeys, are invaders in our once deeply expressive village. ABC News and the Brooklyn Museum are working overtime this week, getting us to follow their authentication of celebrity. This will sell more Crest, more Toyota Corollas, and less of the truth that each and every one of us is deeply expressive if we dare to dig that deep. The entertainers can be amazing and excite us to our own expressive joys, which is art manifest. I got up and raised my hand with Tom Jones, but I didn't want to be like him. I writhed and wrinkled and spilled my spit beer on the hide carpet. I woke up and painted a saber-toothed tiger stalking a Super Bowl celebrity into the forest. Art must coax us out of the Skinner box that money and power have stuffed us into. Museum is art history, instrumental in preserving art stories. However, no joy comes from paced, clockwise observation at a respectable 5-foot distance, whether that be an afternoon at the Louvre or your local struggling art center. And celebrity is anything but celebratory. Taylor Swift is Cindy Sherman. Mick Jagger is Jasper Johns. Millionaire super jocks with dead style choreographed. I think their art is as much fun to be around as burning plastic. It is urgent that we support the expression of our neighbors Donna, who paints us the real news, what the Fourth Estate has abandoned for advertising deals, and Fred, the marble sculptor, sweating out angst in the oppressive July heat. His suburban neighbors doze the livelong day in the cool of the swimming pool. Hey, crank up the music! Yawn, just another Beyonce tune. Philosophical Stuckism. Stuckism is painting with ideas. Philosophy is the practical application of ideas. I believe a successful artist's life will have weaved the two together harmoniously. Just bear with me while I get my page. Obviously, people don't need art as a commodity to acquire. That too is a symptom of the disease. Children make art for the pleasure of being the cause. That is art process, art giving, and where art should have plateaued. There is nature in art making to praise it, which can make humans appear more interesting and introspective than the rest of life because of our funky thumbs. Unfortunately, not long after the invention of photography, art became a practice for any expressive person, not just the talented renderers, and an avenue towards self-actualization. The real broken painters took it a step further, commoditizing their process to build a name for themselves. Art business for business' sake, rather than art commissioned by rich merchants and landowners to paint their family portraits. Any man could become artist, even if he was absent-mindedly drawing geometric shapes and coloring them in. No longer was the painter just another job for hire like in olden times, when the gifted and trained could find employment as an interior decorator for the wealthy. The latter were never keen on art for art's sake. Expressive success was for the clowns. Art, however, was a serious profession, until the Industrial Revolution and ensuing population boom gave art its circus tent performances. End of 19th century lottery winners such as Paul Gauguin could simmer beans and paint topless ladies under palm trees for little monetary reward, yet gain a lifetime of self-respect. If at times he felt poor and dejected, he could always take comfort that as singular artist gaining fame, his progeny would be taken care of. Art celebrity became a thing, and soon, historians and museums made a modern painter's life as remarkable as his canvases. Likewise, gallerists, art brokers, got hold of their own Gauguins to hawk among the super rich. But we must accept that Gauguin was sick, like any modern artist, and used painting to engorge the ego. In his time, the concept of self and the individual was epidemic. There were millions of me's coming in and out of the world. Life was daily less difficult. Upward mobility could come even to a poor painter struggling with self-identity. The growing middle class wanted to feed their egos too. Everyone wanted something new, even those who couldn't afford it. Enter the next 100 years of art celebrity and the inevitability of reform, which is Stuckism. Then watch itself warp into the thing it once wanted to destroy, no different from the initial innocent demands of Christian Protestantism and the eventual violent jingoism of a Billy Graham cracker. Painter Joe Machine says he's a Stuckist, and his canvases are hanging at Gatwick Airport. It takes 25 years for a movement to get saturated with its own vomit. I don't think the original Stuckists learned very much after all. You just can't annihilate the ego while pining for success. Sole proprietorships will always suck at enlightenment. Political Stuckism. It's only a couple more reads, bear with me, but it's fun. Political art gets such a bad rap. However, Stuckism is an art movement concerned with the human condition. It is also painting with ideas. Having an idea about the human condition is politics. So Stuckists must do political paintings. There's no such thing as political art. To marginalize subjects in art means infinite marginalization. For instance, Monet is not called a painter of landscape art, though he did many. He also painted portraits of people and animals and flowers. What if a Monet retrospective had 20 landscapes, 2 dogs, 3 cows in a barn, 30 flowers, a woman's face, and a recently discovered painting of the Kaiser tearing a child's head off? Is he now a political painter? How about a political landscape slash dog slash cow slash flower slash portrait painter? You can see how categorization easily transforms into nonsense, but we do it anyway for political painting. For some reason, even today, in an internet world of instant knowledge of total hell, one who reflects total hell back into the culture via his or her art is deemed a political artist. But damn it, I paint flowers too, and portraits of my wife, dogs, cats, and landscapes. Don't call me a political painter just because I expose a nation that financially supports the flesh melting of children thousands of miles away. I'm a human being, and I'll be damned if I can't make you one too ASAP. I think a good art history of famous painters like Monet would involve an investigation into the universal avoidance of politics in their art. Pretend as they may, Impressionists were still painting pictures for popes, so to speak. I think little has changed to this day. Popes are now establishment leaders of bureaucracy, galleries, universities, millionaires, billionaires, the media, and the heavily influential fifth estate of popular culture, which is mostly set and promoted by corporate advertising to the middle classes. I guess art making for the career artist never stopped being service work for the rich. Time passing and goon persistence has rerouted artist neurons to have them believe that fine art is apolitical, that we're here as sensitive peon painters solely to praise the beauty of the world and look the other way while our betters set it on fire. I believe the flowers are all right. If their feelings were considered, they might ask us to stop painting their likenesses in dystopia. Stuckists make political paintings because they are engaged, quote, with a study of the human condition, end quote. It's just a fact that without politics, there wouldn't be any people and people things. Seems like an important truth to keep out of the processes of human creativity. Maybe if Monet and pals painted their rage about nations gearing up for World War, we wouldn't have had Hitler or Hiroshima. Maybe poppies would just be pretty red flowers to bloom in June and not the bodies of a million slain boys whose artists forsook them. Now, for lack of time, I'm blending practical Stuckism and Russian Stuckism. In practical Stuckism, I show how I practice my art living, my right art living, in a world saturated with gossips, celebrities, and their sycophants. And in Russian Stuckism, I relate how a few Russian painters not only cured my apathy, but set me on a path to being born again as an artist. In 2015, Alexei Stepanov and I traded paintings through the Stuckist Facebook page. At the time, Alexei organized a figure painting group in his Moscow studio. There they are. I watched many sessions on social media of these like-minded individuals in the studio, out plein airing cemeteries, government buildings, stadiums, parks. I was experiencing, vicariously, a camaraderie in the arts that I had sought my whole life in the US but found little evidence of. These artists took themselves seriously without artifice, with much humility, shared culture, and experience. I received a grant in 2016 to paint live sessions with Alexei and friends via Skype and exhibit their work at the Art Association of Oswego, an electrifying experience. Excuse me. Months of preparation and promotion, 105 paintings exhibited. Not a single professor from area colleges came to view the exhibition. And these professors, I mean professors of art, those who would be interested in Russian art, people interested in the Russian language, in Russian culture, in Russian US détente, is that the right word? Anyway, hundreds of personalized cards and invitations were sent. Nobody came that was interested in Russia. Interesting. Anyway, so there's the girl who we just saw being painted in the bottom right-hand corner. Here she is at the end of the night. She gets to pick the painting she takes home with her. That's her payment. And above her head, you can see a triptych I sent to her, I sent to Alexei that year. One time, they got a Moscow cop off the street to be painted. They did not know this person. They asked him before their session, and after his beat, would he come upstairs to the studio to paint? Can you imagine that happening in the United States? Let's go ask a cop if he wants to come into the room with me and paint. Ain't gonna happen. You can see me there painting from my Skype. My face is on the little Skype thing there. I actually got to paint that policeman too. And there he is choosing his painting to take home. He didn't get to take mine though. So I mentioned that this was a blend of practical and Russian Stuckism. In my study of the movement and in my own experience, these painters exemplify Stuckism. Their path is the one to follow. Nobody's coming to their rescue, so they help themselves. Here's a clip of a video of a get-together party, an auction of work by painters in Alexei's studio. It kind of makes Christie's look like the hellscape that it is.
Вот Ты можешь начинать. Петр Генерал. Петр Генерал кто?
Это я.
Петр Генерал, прошу любить жаловать. Его картина. Внимание, префект ЮА узнает про.
Я думаю, что урок делать.
So we want a couple of Stuckism sites still in touch with
Я могу позволить себе
and
больше.
Alexis in a striped shirt.
Я объявляю стартовую цену для этой картины.
You get the idea there. The next three sections are brief, and they highlight Stuckist artists that I revere and that are very active right now. Edgeworth Johnson of London, UK, Lupo Sol of Alicante, Spain, and Olga Naus of St. Petersburg, Russia. I have to say that Edgeworth is doing great things right now. He's picked up where the Russians left off, or he's trying to anyway. Sometimes he just goes solo, sometimes he says that to Stuckism, but you can read more about him in the book. This is a video of his Jompy giveaway in Camden Town in London this summer. Jompy is the Bitcoin of art. It is his creation. He is an art force to reckon with. He's also an avant-garde musician, and you'll hear some of his music with Emma Punkmeyer. I live paint on Instagram with Emma and Edgeworth every Thursday. Oh, and now Miss Libby Palmer, too.
Yeah, I'm happy. Thank you.
I'd just like to say kind of like that this has got a lot to do with like punks and Sid Vicious. I'd like to say that anarchy is order. Therefore, I don't know, I'd just like to thank Mr. Jompy for this piece of art.
Gosh, I think maybe my living room. I think my living room right next to my cat furniture. I think it would look really good next to our cat tree. And just gotta make sure I put it far away enough that they don't tear the living shit out of it.
There you go. Here's Edgeworth in front of his favorite painting at the National Gallery, favorite Vincent van Gogh painting, Sunflowers, and there's his website. Lupo Sol is a prolific marvel and master with paint. And he's pretty good with psychology, too, and painting. Gotta read a little bit. Lupo makes me want to leave art for good, get some land and become a corn farmer. I am an imposter. He is a world champion of painting. Stuckism doesn't deserve him, but it certainly suits his misfortune. Here's one of the greatest living painters on earth having to beg for dollars on social media and garage sale arts and crafts websites like Etsy. His own countrymen have forsaken him. I've been to Spain with its history and relics. Good food is plentiful and the wildlife woefully underrepresented. They killed off the wild ones, including their artists. Spain likes jet skis and despises creative expression. Or if some pretend to like art enough to invest in it, they just relish the taste of the worst trash in America. In 2017, I sponsored an exhibition for him in the farm hills of Hamilton, New York. The gallery owner had eyeballs and half a brain, so she said, yes, please hang his paper paintings on my white walls of country boredom. She and I did more for Lupo Sol than the nation of Spain. It is an honor and a travesty to be one of only 3 public exhibitions listed on his website. I guess one can look at Lupo's fate in a positive light. Art via the internet is killing off nationalism, which is a very good thing. He has thousands of adoring fans on Instagram and beyond. His art gets sold. He handles and ships paintings all over the world while successfully branding his art business, which has made him the Grim Reaper of Stuckism. He stands out alone as a cause for addendum, statement number 21 to the manifesto, after Stuckism, become a lone wolf. There's Lupo with his cat. I'm going to introduce Olga Naus. I put her painting first, this Hello Neighbor. Olga is an original Russian Stuckist. She is a prolific painter, an artist of life, fresh, funny, in the 98th percentile of art genius, and marvelously new. She is a treasure to modern art and especially to Stuckism. She paints every day, she posts her paintings, she sells them when she can, she sends them to me to put up in exhibitions. And for instance, to garner excitement for an exhibition I had of her work back in 2019, 18, My friend Eric and I went to New York City with one of her paintings and got regular everyday people to pose with it. And we also stopped at major museums to show Danye there. Here's a brief excerpt to a very long video. Eric has a lot of guts. We took a lot of pictures that day.
Hey Ron, what the hell are you doing in New York today? Hey Ron, what are you doing today? Hey Ron, what are you doing here today? What are you doing here in New York today? Hey Ron, what are you doing in New York? Hey Ron, what are you doing in New York, Ron? Hey Ron, what are you doing here in New York today? Hey Ron, what are you doing in New York today? Hey Ron, what are you doing in New York today? Hey Ron, what are you doing here today? Hey Ron, what are you doing in New York today? So Ron, what are you doing in New York? Hey Ron, what are you doing in New York today? What are you doing in New York today? Hey Ron, what are you doing here in New York? Hey Ron, what are you doing in New York today?
Art market Stuckism. Dear Stuckis, the bad news, no recognition is coming to save us. The good news is we don't care. In this segment, I write to Charles Thompson, the co-founder of Stuckism, about his conceptual art pricing. He's not too happy about it. I write about how I actually think one should price a painting. I write about the many lies of the faux art market, and I give a Stuckist's last will and testament, which happens to be my own. The last section of the book are a bunch of quotes over the years about Stuckism, quotes and aphorisms, whatever. The last one is, none of us are any good until many of us say that some of us are. Again, it'll give you a good take on what I think about the movement. And I'm just going to read the last page here of the epilogue. And yeah, and then we can have some questions, which could be fun, I hope. I will make friends with wild dogs so I can sick them on what's left of the house puppies and their indulgent owners. I have perhaps 3 decades left to live, so I'll abide by Stuckism as a force for good, even if it's doomed to be just another depressing means to a self-loathing, self-satisfying end. For my own sanity, I intend to guide Stuckism down pathways where I need it to tread. I believe that art should have concepts, and good art will have revolutionary ones. I don't mean revolution like industrial or Castro necessarily. It could mean the overthrow of color, form, composition, paintbrushes, what have you. It might call for all art to be free of sale or laced with cyanide. I believe some painters can experience revolution several times in a lifetime. That is an earned joy and precious freedom for the artist to experience. Buddhists say satori. I would call them breakthroughs and lasting longer. Stuckism can accommodate revolution. If Stuckism is painting with ideas, then I need those ideas to catalyst eradication of nuclear weapons and global warming, enormous floating plastic islands, billionaire greed, consumerism, and the persistence of obnoxious domesticated dogs. I need an art that will behead Elon Musk as a warning to anyone who gets the urge to trash his own species for profit. At present, Stuckism is not that kind of movement, but I will continue to be a hanger-on with the hope that its popularity soars so I can gain the influence necessary to wheel in the guillotine unaccosted. Even if that pleasant and just day never arrives, I will continue to celebrate Stuckism for its purity of heart and soul and the manifesto's literal dedication to painting practice. Recently, Edgeworth Johnston has been making videos of himself going about London giving away his Jompy paintings. He posts them on the Stuckist Facebook page. The following is what Charles Thompson had to say after he mentioned that Edgeworth better watch out or get ticketed for fly tipping, which is British littering. I mean, you don't want to take that manifesto too much to heart. We were young and carefree at the time. What the hell is point 8 anyway? To which Edgeworth replied, I think it's sharing is caring, or words to that effect. I added my 2 cents. Hey, wait, I'm young and carefree. And I would also say that, listen, Charles, you weren't that young. He was 46 when the manifesto was published. Of course one takes Stuckism to heart, dude. That's all it is, heart and youth. That mixed in proper proportion is the only fuel by which we may live a sane and happy life. It also provides protection from the naysayers of art, which make themselves known out loud much too often in any true artist's experience. Anyway, here is point number 8 that Thompson was referring to, quote, it is the Stuckist's duty to explore his or her neurosis and innocence through the making of paintings and displaying them in public, thereby enriching society by giving shared form to individual experience and an individual form to shared experience. Yep, I'd rather give it all away than get old in miserly fashion, closing doors, boiling water, mocking youthful dreams, and the right path to life's many contentments. Edgeworth is taking Stuckism along for his ride, and to hell with the naysayers. And so am I. In fact, I intend to press on with Stuckism until my wits end. 30 more years of innocent humiliation should do the trick. My wife Rose says that in marketing, just about the time a new campaign becomes stale to the marketers, that's when the team should double down and promote more aggressively. The long lag time is normal for a good idea to take hold. Large populations need repetition of a message for it to be received, welcomed, digested, and spread effectively. So although Stuckism has had 25 years to paint, I'd like to give it 25 more to make something of itself. I think now is our doubling down time. Any takers?
Okay.
That's the end of the presentation. I hope you like it. That was my baby.
Remind me to show you something at the end.
Oh, sure. That's all I have for you. If you have any questions. Okay.
I mean, isn't it pretty much a given that every not every 20 or 30 years, constantly there are, I don't know what you want to call them, revisionists or avant-gardists and so forth. And I genuinely believe that anything you're not doing to sell can be art. But when you
my grandchild thinks lots.
when you focus on money, it becomes you have to appease.
Sure.
You have to.
I think that's a lot of what Stuckism started as. They saw this money going around the, major amounts of money transferring, millionaire hands to artist hands. And these poor artist students were, 20 years old coming out of school, and Charles Saatchi's there going, "Let me see your bag. I'll give you 200,000 for it," whatever. But, yeah, I agree. Any questions? Anybody? Oh, Ranjit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm just trying to figure out. It seems like there's kind of a lottery system, where something like that bed becomes like something